Hello and welcome to another Tifo Members Tactics video. Today we're going to be looking at Atalanta in Serie A. It was suggested by D64 Gaming specifically on the Folarenga video. It's also been suggested by a load of other people and there is a good reason for this. Atalanta are currently one of the most exciting and attractive sides playing in the European top 5 leagues. They're also quite unusual for Italian football. In terms of the pace and aggression with which they play, and Gianpiero Gasperini, who is the manager there, is a guy who has achieved fantastic things. A bit of a background on Atalanta very briefly. They are financially quite small, based in Bergamo. They're not the sort of club that really attracts big name players. They don't have the transfer budget, they don't have the wage budget. So what they've done and what they've been famous for quite some time now is an absolutely stellar youth development. What this does is it supplements the first team squad with a series of really talented young Italian players particularly, who then go on to do other things. So there's people going to Inter, there's people going to Juve. This is quite a high turnover of players. What's interesting about this team currently this season is that actually there hasn't been quite as much turnover. There's been a degree of consistency, and as we'll see, although Duvan Zapata's been added, there's a consistency in how they play as well from the last couple of seasons. In 2016-17 they finished 4th under Gasperini, which was a massive overachievement, particularly when you look at the relative wage budgets in Serie A. They finished 7th last season, and they're currently, after 27 games played in Serie A, they're 7th again. What's interesting to note is that they've scored the second most goals in Serie A after Juventus. They've also scored the most goals from open play. That's according to who scored. So a really interesting and exciting team. We're going to have a quick look first at the rough layout of the team and defensive stuff, and then we'll segue into how they attack, which is where it gets really exciting. So the rough layout is a kind of, whether you want to call it a 3-4-3, a 3-4-1-2. There's a backline 3 here. I've not written the names of defenders in because actually that's the area of the team where they've probably churned over the most in terms of selection. Although Mancini, who's a right-sided centre-back, is a guy who's worth looking at, will very likely move to a bigger Italian club. Wing-backs here. Castagna is the kind of utility guy. He plays on either side. And then Goossens, who's a young German, predominantly left because he's left-footed. And then Hatterberg, the Dutch right wing-back, is also playing a lot. Central midfield, very, very consistent selection, and there's a good reason for that, because Remo Freuler and Martin de Roon are one of the best central midfield pairings in Serie A currently. De Roon is one of the best in the world at his position. He's recently had a Dutch call-up. We talked about him a bit in the Who Might Replace Fernandinho video. I rate him very highly, and I was hugely surprised when he moved from Middlesbrough when they got relegated. He was there for a season. He didn't return to a Premier League side in the UK because he's got everything as a defensive midfielder. Up the top here, Gomez and Ilicic have been there for a while. Zapata's kind of the new boy, but this is sort of where the magic happens. Alejandro Gomez and Josip Ilicic among the best dribblers in Serie A, very dynamic, very attacking. They weigh in goals with goals as well, although Zapata's currently got 17, which is a fantastic return for a striker in Serie A. So defensively, it's fairly straightforward. These guys will fall back when the other team are in possession and create a kind of nice massed 5 there. Gomez will quite often either fall back to make a kind of 2-2-1, or if these guys come back and there's a sort of a mid-press, Gomez actually pushes up and leads the press there, because this particularly happens against teams who play a back 3 where they want Zapata and Ilicic to occupy the outside centre-backs, and Gomez, who's very dynamic, he's 5'4", but he's built like a tank and runs very hard, so he tends to challenge the central centre-back and the goalkeeper. When the opposition get the ball into this sort of area in the middle of the park, the Atalanta players will tend to quite aggressively man mark, and there's a man-oriented press there as well. What you'll also see that's quite interesting is when the ball is in this sort of area, so the opposition is seeking to progress it down the outside channel, the wing-back will push up and press pretty aggressively, helped out by this guy, and De Roon will kind of come in and fill back there. So even though they will press aggressively in certain areas, what they're always trying to do is ensure that the shape at the back stays as a 5 or as a kind of staggered 3-2, to make sure that there's plenty of protection there. De Roon is exceptional at intercepting the ball and also tackling. They're both pretty solid in the air. So if the opposition are forced into a long ball, then they'll try and sweep it up. Also, the outside centre-backs particularly are not shy about pushing forward, either to challenge for the ball aerially or to push forwards to mark a player. So the only time that this sort of solid 5 will be disrupted is if Atalanta see the opportunity to aggressively man-mark players ahead of that line and basically try and compress the space that the opposition have to work in. They will cede this area a little bit and sort of fall back to make a mid-block. They're not too concerned because with this dominant back 3 here and De Roon particularly sweeping up in front of it, if the opposition have to resort to longer balls over a mid-block, Atalanta feel very comfortable defending that. What's also worth noting before we move into talking about how they attack is Atalanta ultimately, when they're looking to transition, they want these spaces here to be empty for that transition. So again, creating a sense where the opposition is sort of looking to try and funnel the ball through or over, they will aggressively defend that area and then look to clear into the spaces so that the wing backs can push up very, very quickly. So now we're going to have a quick look at how they attack, and I'll be swapping this over. Quick changeover, clean board, still with Atalanta. So I've not bothered drawing in player names at this point because hopefully you'll have a rough gist of it. Zapata, Ilicic, Alejandro, Freuler, De Roon, and the wing backs. So Atalanta, their main way of attacking is down the flanks. They particularly favour the left-hand side, and there's a reason for that, which we'll see. Essentially, what Atalanta are really looking to do is to progress the ball using the centre-backs and De Roon and the goalkeeper, who is either Eric Berisha, who I think was at Lazio, or Pierluigi Gallini, who was at Aston Villa, and he might be on loan, he might not. I didn't check that. They will play lots and lots of short passes between themselves in order to move the ball forwards. So what they're looking to do is slowly, possession-wise, progress it up. Atalanta are, I think, 4th or 5th for possession in Serie A. So they're not a long ball side at all. This is one of those things where we try not to confuse a direct style of play with necessarily a long style of play. Direct and vertical don't have to be the same thing. So they're not lumping it up. What they're looking to do is progress the ball slow-ish and keep control and recycle possession, particularly among the back 3 who are all quite comfortable on the ball, and the goalkeeper using the wing backs and De Roon if necessary, to get to a point where the opposition is starting to fall back, starting to look a little bit uncomfortable because they haven't had the ball for a while, maybe breaking their structure a little bit in order to press. That's when Atalanta explode into life, and that's where the pace and the dynamism comes in. So if we look at the left-hand side particularly, what you'll see is obviously the wing back has kind of got the run of it. Freuler will push up here, and Alejandro Gomez will move into this space here, which is something that Ilicic will also do on the right hand side, but they do like to attack quite a bit down the left. They don't attack centrally very much at all. What that does is that creates a kind of shape whereby, let's use a red one for this, where you've got a sort of rhombus kind of shape in between these players. And this same rhombus can be constructed on the right hand side as well. The points of this rhombus will flex lots, right? So, you know, the wing back will pull inside a little bit, Gomez might drop off, Zapata could drop in, Freuler could push up. So the sides of that rhombus are constantly moving, constantly flexing. And what Atalanta are really, really good at doing, and this is consistent throughout the team, even the centre-backs, is they're very, very good at quick passing. Bum, 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 bum. Lots of 1-2s, lots of pass and move. So it becomes really fluid, really dynamic as they accelerate into this attacking third. What they're looking to do is one of two things. They're either looking to condense the opposition over onto one side, so let's say the opposition's right-hand side, Atalanta's left here. They're looking to pull as many opposition defenders into this sort of zone as possible, either to then create space to work through and around and get a cross in. We'll talk about crossing in a second. Or the other thing that they love to do, and we'll use a black pen for this, is say the ball is up here at this point, and you know the passing rhombus is sort of, you know, like this. These guys suddenly are in a lot of space. So he'll kind of move up to there and loiter around there. Ilicic is there, lots and lots of space here. And then there'll be a very, very quick switch of play. Now that switch of play might come through Freuler, it might come through De Roon, it might even be just a direct horizontal pass. All of a sudden, the opposition are all bunched up in this area, and Ilicic, who's a really dynamic runner, Hatterber, Castagnier, whoever it is, all of a sudden they are herring in on goal there. And crucially, these guys suddenly panic because Atalanta have switched the play very, very quickly and they're attacking down this side. That leaves Zapata to kind of idle in and make late runs into the box where he's a threat in the air, he's a threat on the ground. That's how they'll create a lot of chances. There's another crucial thing to note about the way Atalanta cross. This has all got quite messy. So, Atalanta don't, say the wing backs got up to here, even though Zapata is a lump, good in the air, and Ilicic is actually quite tall as well, you don't see generally sort of floated crosses into the back post at all. Atalanta are very, very careful, and this is something that, say, you'll see Manchester City doing a lot as well. They're very, very careful to recognise that the highest percentage in terms of success rates with crossing is if you pull the ball back from this sort of area. So what you want to do is you want to get the ball into here and then pull it backwards across the face of goal, particularly when you've got Ilicic running in, you've got Gomez running in, even Freuler or De Roon can run into there. So Atalanta are constantly looking to work the ball into this space here, which again we've shown how they do that with this kind of rhombus shape or with the sudden switch pass. But say they switch the pass, Hatterber's not coming out there and then floating across in. He's driving towards the byline to pull it back. So they're a high crossing side. I think in terms of Serie A, they actually cross more than anybody else. But the cross is a much higher percentage than just kind of lumping it in, say, Burnley style. This is really, really effective because particularly if a team is playing with either advanced fullbacks or as they did when they beat Fiorentina 3-1 recently with wing backs, that's a pocket of space that you can get into quite quickly, particularly if you attack in the way that Atalanta do, and the pullbacks then are very, very dangerous. So Atalanta, what we've seen then is very exciting side, very attacking, very dynamic, nice measured build-up play, suddenly explodes into life down these wide corridors, creation of little rhombuses to quickly interchange the ball, ideally to get into this dangerous space here, to pull back. Now, that's not to say that they won't cross it occasionally, and sometimes what they do as well, kind of like Leicester City did this against Watford actually, is they will float the cross very deep, all the way across to the opposition wing-back, who'll then smash it in low. So it's kind of a cross to create a pullback. They're a very smart side, they're very well coached, despite the fact that there's not really any big name players, despite the fact that there's a fair churn of players because they get picked off by clubs who've got a bigger transfer budget and a bigger wage budget. Atalanta are really punching above their weight, and that's because Gasperini is tactically superb. So give these guys a watch. Thanks very much for joining us on another Tifo Members Tactics video, and yeah, we'll see you next week.